Ghosts of the Future, Issue 8. The story starts out with Silver's sister Cicely being seen by a newly awakened robot who knows that his motor functions are disabled. Why in the world would the vision of any robot be tinted red? That wouldn't be beneficial. She says she finally found a power source compatible with them. Why would a power source not be? The robot starts restoring motor functions on its own, as apparently it can do that. Or try to anyways, because there's a system failure and it gives up from program damage. Cicely is asked if she's doing evil science again. Why did Spenny bother? If Cicely was literally not allowed to do stuff like this, then she wouldn't be allowed in the garage or anything. But she manages to do this stuff anyways. And there's clearly no changing her mind on it. Then we see Nicole from the back staring at her from behind computer screens. Because she was seen from the back, I couldn't tell what she was supposed to be at first. Then the comic bothers me by reminding me of the melodrama where Blaze hates Silver now, and it could easily end it by just showing him Sonic and Shadow. It just makes me pissed off that the drama is only there because of someone's stupidity. He's been back working at the restaurants for a week and Blaze still hates him. It's common sense not to write this. So much for the only originality I loved about this comic. Now that's something I just want to skip too. If this keeps up, I won't want to read any of it. Blaze's father talks way too much, saying stuff we already know, and tells Silver that he needs to get his priorities straight or he won't have a chance with his daughter. Why does he want a wuss like him to have a chance with his daughter? Normally I'd expect the overprotective parent trope. Does he not know why Blaze is mad at Silver? She would have told him. He's told to take a break, and then Sonic shows up in front of him and says he hates rain. Sonic says that it's been a while since last issue and nothing earth-shattering has happened, so he was thinking they should look for the next emerald. Why didn't they try to get them all in a row? Why is gathering the emeralds so unimportant to them when the universe will die without them? Sonic says that it would take thousands of years for the universe to die without the emeralds. That seems to come out of nowhere. I thought there was a stricter time limit. Then Silver is uncharacteristically nihilistic, saying there's no big rush in getting the emeralds. The guy who's introduced to the franchise as someone who wants to save the future more than anything is portrayed as the opposite right now. Out of complete nowhere, Silver says that he's a hybrid. And lots of people have markings like him, apparently. He says he's only different because Sonic made him that way, implying the confusing idea that Silver only has telekinesis because of Sonic, when that's never the case. I don't like this idea. He chooses the angst instead of save the freaking universe. So he doesn't care if the universe will die eventually, is that what he's saying? Why is this whiny loser the protagonist? Even Other M didn't get me this apathetic and irritated nearly 8 issues in. Silver quits because he wants to live his life, because this writer doesn't understand Silver at all. He's a hero first and foremost. Even 06 knew that. Silver from 06 would be absolutely disgusted with his selfish wimp. Then he sneaks into her sister's lab to see what's under a tarp, which she wouldn't have done if Cicely had told her what would have been under it, which he probably would have done if her family didn't dismiss their hobby as just evil science. Probably because of a bunch of incidents off-screen, which seem like they'd be more interesting than the actual comic. I mean, most of this plot has been pretty blah, unappealing so far. Blaze hating Silver, and there's some drama about Silver not wanting to get the emeralds anymore, when him getting the emeralds is the whole premise of the comic. So of course he's not going to be allowed to quit permanently. Metal Sonic gets reactivated, somehow. And there's text saying there's a system failure and restoration is aborted. And then some text says external override activated. He somehow thinks of Vinny as a threat when she's clearly not trying to hurt him and just looks scared. This is just evil for the sake of evil, which is just lazy writing. Then she falls over and there's some gore, because it's a fan comic. It looks like Metal Sonic killed Silver's sister, because apparently someone who is smart enough to know all about motorcycles and do this to reactivate it was inexplicably too dumb to reprogram Metal Sonic to be a good guy before reactivating him and go over his programming to make sure nothing in it could override him to do this. Reprogramming Metal Sonic was such an obvious idea that I assumed it was the case. Why would she find a robot and not look over every single part of it first? We're told later on that he really was just taken over by someone else. But the only way that would make sense is if that someone else was in him to begin with, like as an AI, And obviously, Cicely would have found that someone else if she had combed through all of his programming on her computer first. Why would she reactivate an unknown robot without doing that just in case? This is no better than Metal Sonic not being reprogrammed in IDW. She'd obviously have gone over all of his programming first before waking him up, out of curiosity to see what it was like at least. What's she even planning to do with him? Why would she reactivate him if she doesn't even plan on doing anything with them? If it's to be a lab assistant for her, help her out, she could just build a robot to do that. I'm thankful that the writer had the wisdom to get rid of this character who was just embarrassing the comic with her annoyingness. But it would have been much better writing to have actual slapstick. I can't help it, I don't like this character. After all the annoyance she gave me with her quoting Shakespeare for no reason and suffocating Silver, I need a bunch of silly slapstick like an AOSCH, not some brief gore that's out of place in the Sonic series. Why have this character exist then? To just annoy us for a bit and then get rid of her an issue later. According to a trivia page, the writer originally planned to actually kill Benioff, which would make actual sense because that's all this looks like. But was talked out of it later on. She also planned to make Cicely go axe crazy. So I guess when she was accused of doing evil science, we were supposed to take that literally and think she was evil, even though she still cares about her family. Anyways, Silver calls Blaze, who's a complete jerk to him, refusing to talk to him at all. And then he says that he's been messing up his life and now he wants to take charge and be with her. She thankfully forgives him, even though he didn't tell her about his business with Sonic. So you'd think she'd still be mad at him for getting her worried about him for days on end. She's such a mood swinger, how can I trust her? She's furious at him, makes him agonize over it for days on end, and then she suddenly is nice to him again. Then Silver gets a call from his still absent mother, who says that his sister's in the hospital after an accident. Why did Metal Sonic leave her alive? Why would he even attack her at all? At least we learn what job Shadow has. He works as a Mediotech security guard. Makes sense for a living weapon. He says that when he's at work, Sonic always makes fun of his hat. Sonic has a sweet moment where he asks Shadow if they're friends and hopes he doesn't just stick around with them out of obligation. What took him so long to ask him this? I mean, it's been 200 years. Shadow has no social skills and asks what he's talking about instead of just saying yes. So it drags things out, and they see Metal Sonic breaking the glass of Mediotech for some reason. Shadow says he doesn't know what's going on in the building and is only paid to guard it. And he says he's starting to get curious. And then he uses his Chaos Control to teleport Metal Sonic to him and break him apart. No, that wouldn't happen because that requires a brain. Instead, he uses Chaos Control to freeze time so that he can easily catch up to Metal Sonic, and Metal Sonic won't be a threat to him at all. No, that would also make sense. So he has to be written like he doesn't have it at all. So the story ends with him going to the building in curiosity. Also, even Sonic can use Chaos Control in this comic. This issue by Evan Stanley had Silver finally patch things up with Blaze, though somehow not in the common sense way where he'd tell her what business he had with Sonic to make her so upset with his disappearance. No, that'd be logical. And somehow Silver's sister actually survived being attacked by Metal Sonic. I don't know why she didn't look over his programming design to the fullest extent, which would have caused her to spot anything that would override his programming and avoid all this. She lost all of my respect. I thought she was supposed to be a super competent engineer who could do anything. Like, who knows what she would add to the comic. I was actually thinking she was cool for being a gadgeteer genius out of nowhere. But no, because all she does is inconvenience her family because of it. So it wasn't even worth it. Isn't it weird to have a Metal Sonic-like robot still around 200 years later? He obviously would have been found and scrapped by now. Either that or he'd be used by Gunn. We needed to know how Cicely found him 200 years later and no one else did. Because that really sticks out as being an arbitrary part of the story that just happens to have a story about it. It feels like the only reason she found him is because she's a main character. And the story ends with Shadow and Sonic spotting the robot and following it into the building Shadow is guarding.